Stephen Mbide, thank you very much, my brother, and I hope you have a great morning. And of course, our viewers who are watching wherever you are, very good morning once again, and you're watching Morning at NTV. At this point in time, we'd like to talk about the just released NRM roadmap on Friday last week by the NRM Electoral Commission Chairman, Mr. Tanga Odoi. A lot is happening, and the National Resistance Movement decided, yes, the 9 top organ positions, yes, the national chairperson, the vice national chairperson, the deputy vice national chairperson, all those positions, 9 of them will be subjected to adult suffrage. But then the rest of the positions, that is the village executive committees, the women leagues, the youth leagues, the elderly league, all that will have to wait until the situation normalizes. They decided to actually focus on these 9 positions because of the COVID-19 pandemic. They do not want to exacerbate the spread of the same. So they're going to keep it low-key, but would like to know more about this and more with Captain Francis Babu, who joins me right now in the studio. Very good morning.
Good morning to you.
What have I left out with regards to this new revised roadmap for the NRM? What are we looking at? Today you have the Secretary General.
That you should have interviewed the Secretary General.
The Secretary General, she's
the spokeswoman.
Yeah, she's unveiling the voters register, which has 11.9 million voters. All right, what did we leave out? Why are these 9 posts subjected to adult suffrage while the rest have been left out till the situation normalizes?
Well, let me put it basically this way. Whenever you have a war, it doesn't matter which war, and this time it was COVID-19, you're bound to have a collateral damage. And when you do that, you need to control the damage. And what is happening is that the people in this country, the leadership of this country, is trying to make sure we fulfill the constitutional obligation of having elections, but at the same time to have mitigating factors that will help to have those elections successfully, but within the ambient of fighting the coronavirus. And basically, that is what is happening.
And basically, other opposition strongmen are saying this will not work. The whole virtual campaigns and so forth as we enter this scientific election. They're saying the new realities on ground do not allow for a scientific campaign, but rather for these politicians to be on the ground to talk to their electorates, because they believe you need to interface with the electorate for them to hear your message. What do you make of that?
Well, we have a very unfortunate habit in this country that everything must be opposed without really giving very good reasons. I've had, and by the way, these are members of the opposition, not strong men. Strong men is as if you're talking about weightlifters. These are members, these are leaders in the opposition who have got their views, and you must respect their views. Of course, there is a debate.
Yes.
And to me, whenever you have a conflict in a debate, you are improving the management of the system. So they've got a view, and then the government has got a view, and NRM has come up and said, we shall abide by the view that has been given by the government. And then the opposition, some of them said, we will not take part in these elections. But recently I saw their members picking up papers and filling them. So that means that statement was not correct. However, the question here that we must answer, all of us, are the elections going to be there according to our constitution? The answer is yes, and the Electoral Commission is going ahead to do this. They have told you how they have worked out the roadmap, and at such circumstances we're in. At the same time, they have told you that they will try and make it as plausible as possible. Now, we must have a perception. The perception is that just out of all the methods of campaigning, there's one particular area which seems to have been put aside, and that is having large crowds because of COVID-19. They're saying, let's not have that one, but let's have the others. And it's not only this country that's having this. I don't know if you're a football fan. I love football, and unfortunately, even the biggest countries in the world have refused people to go in a stadium to have to watch at football. And these guys, they're addicted to football. They're addicted to American football. They're addicted to different games. But even the Olympics were suspended. Now, let us now look at this. If you suspend rallies as such, are the rest going to work? Can you use the rest that is there to work? Yes, if you use them efficiently, you can actually reach the voter. And let me tell you this. Some years ago, through a simple experiment, we did what they called RC elections, where we stood in a village of 200 people, and you spoke, and all of you who wanted to compete for certain posts there stood up and talked, and you spoke for 5 minutes, and in 5 minutes that village decided who would be their leader.
So in a nutshell, you're saying the media will do more good than harm, except the rallies.
It has been doing. The media has been used even before. In fact, now it has expanded. The media which was being used before initially was radio, then it went on to televisions. We have a lot of television stations. There is a lot of social media now.
Yes.
Now, these arguments that people put, oh, but you see, most of us are poor, we have only Katochi telephones, but those telephones have got radios on them. Then there's this argument that there are some areas where you don't have a radio station. Unfortunately, UCC does not agree with that. The whole of Uganda is covered by different radio stations. And they are the public radio stations, PBS broadcasting stations. That is UBC and eVision, who are, which are government organizations, medias, and they cover virtually this whole country. Yeah, I think UBC has got 12 FM stations.
But can all the 3 million candidates who are standing for these 1.5 million elective positions be accommodated by these radio stations and TV stations?
Yes,
You're talking about 40 on one side and 290 radio stations on the other.
Oh yes, they can be. They can be. Most of these organizations, like ours, like this one, will be able to do it. For the people in Kampala, obviously, will not have a problem because there are so many. But there are so many in Masaka, there are so many in Barara, there are so many in Kabale, there are so many in fact, in most remote places, you have radio stations.
But then what happened in Jinja last week at Baba FM when Bobby Wine Chagulanyi was holding an interview at Baba FM, he was actually threatened to be thrown out. They just couldn't get access to the station. So they waited for him even after he finished the interview. So we have situations where we have a scientific election that is hinging on the use of media. But then we are seeing politicians being thrown out of radio stations. So what does that all mean?
For doing what?
For just interacting with, the electorate on the radio.
Well, we're here now. Have we been thrown out? I think it's the method of doing that. I was reading something about people. I think the other day there was a problem on this station when two leaders of a particular party had a conflict. But I've been reading on, and one of them said, you see, the problem with our people...
That is Thursday last week.
Yeah, they do stage management. Stage management where they conflict with the police and they bring the cameras so that they can use that conflict for their benefit. By carrying the whole ginger to a radio station and creating that chaos, there is a security problem there. So we don't look at one side, look at all sides. I think time has come for us to be fair.
So won't we be seeing such scenarios as we head into the campaign period?
When I want to campaign and I come here, I park my car outside, I come in the studio, we do the program, or we record that program. I don't bring half of Kampala here. I don't think there will be a problem. I think the problem is if you want to use it to get attention, and by the way, this is being used commonly by some people. Those who want to get famous very quickly, they conflict with the police. They make the police lift them, put them on the vehicle, and take the pictures, and they don't know that this is being stage managed.
Captain Babu, are you saying all these events are stage managed for political clout?
Let me give you another one. Recently, one of the parties said, we are not taking part in this election.
FDC?
I don't know who it is. Me, I don't mention names.
Because FDC
but
is
suddenly,
participating.
One of their members went out there and stood in a public place and called people to come. In other words, trying to fight those simple health regulations which were put there. And the police came and told him, you're not supposed to do this. And he created a conflict. When you create conflict with the police, you are going to be done that. Now, in other cases, it has not been such, where a true leader has been harassed by the police by overusing power. But this is not only here; it's all over the world. Police has a problem whenever there is a heat of the moment, and sometimes they use excessive power. But that is in certain occasions. But here there are people whose job is actually there's a very nice Uganda word, if you allow me, okusosonkereza, to go and disturb the police, so the police can react and they can use that for increasing their.
But I would like to know, Mr. Babu, how do you incite the police when you're in a studio, locked in there, having a conversation?
You're not locked in
then
the
police
you
is
have gone
outside swarming.
No, you've gone into the studio, but you've left 1,000 people out there. That is the police's problem. The police's problem is not your being in the studio, it's what you have done outside. You have created a scenario. Cameras are everywhere. People are all over there. They are chanting slogans. They are not following the regulations. Then you ask your questions. We are not going to accept the regulations. Who are you not to accept regulations? Why? Why don't we find a solution where we work together?
Don't you think this is a recipe for disaster, where you have the opposition saying, no, for us, we are not going to follow the Ministry of Health guidelines, we are going to conduct rallies, because the minister herself, Dr. Aceng, who bathed the guidelines that we are following right now, broke the same rules. So that is the argument that they are saying, that they are following an example of one of the ministers of the president, Dr. Aceng, who actually conducted a rally, but she says she was actually trying to teach people how to put on face masks. So they are using that example to say rallies will be carried out because the NRM is doing the same.
This decision of theirs was made before Dr. Aceng's problem. And I want media, and me personally, please be kind to Honorable Aceng.
Indeed.
And she has said that she's sorry. She's one of our best ministers. And as far as I'm concerned, that is not an excuse. Two wrongs do not do a right. And if Dr. Aceng has done a mistake, doesn't mean that you should follow the same mistake. If Dr. Aceng had jumped into a hole, it does not mean we should jump into the hole. I think that is totally wrong and is cheap propaganda. And if you're to use the American expression, it's a cheap shot. And I think media, you and me, who are sitting in media, please should not propagate this. I think it's very unfair to Dr. Aceng. She has done such a tremendous job. And if there was a small mistake, she has said she was sorry. And as far as I'm concerned, I respect that.
And indeed, we're not trying to propagate anything,
because but people like you should not continue all the time.
Yes.
Because some gentleman who wants to prove a point has used Dr. Aceng, and we keep on hammering it. Eventually, the lady will say,
you see, Dr. Aceng is only part of the problem. You also had the brutality that was meted out on the Mitana Municipality MP, Honorable Zake. He was actually doing the same thing that Aceng was doing, trying to help people, give them some food in that case, but he was not following the guidelines.
There's a difference.
Aceng also was teaching people how to wear masks. But what we are saying is...
No, please.
Okay, the conversation,
please,
Mr. Babu.
Please. Dr. Aceng is in the National Task Force. Dr. Aceng is a minister. Yeah? Mr. Zake is a guy who loves conflict. And that's not the first time he has created that conflict. He has been in a lot of conflict. The other day, he went in front of a whole Vice Chancellor of Makerere University professor and nearly boxed him. Now, you cannot bring that kind of a person as the example to a person of integrity like Dr. Aceng. As far as I'm concerned, she is a lady we should respect. Now, if she says, sorry, maybe I was a mistake, the camera took the picture at the wrong time.
Yes.
It was a flaw. It's a moment. What is this that the photographers say? Take the moment and think about it after. What they did, they took that moment and they expanded it. Why didn't they take a moment when the mask was on? I think we should be very, very careful.
So what we are dealing with, are you
destroying
saying that we are dealing with political opportunism at this point in time?
Exactly. And the stage managers.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not the one who said it. Just what the Secretary General of one of the parties was saying, oh, this person, they even pay policemen to arrest them so they can become popular. And they have done this. We know they have done it. We know that they stage manage some of these things. Now, not all of them. In certain cases, the police has overused excessive power. But this is not the only place where they use excessive power. This is an international problem with the police. Whenever there is a problem, because I'll give you the reason why. In this country, we have 43 million people. We have 40,000 policemen. Each policeman has to look after 1,000 people. You have a riot of 1,000 people with one policeman. How do you want that policeman to handle that situation? He uses tear gas, he uses vehicles, he uses excessive force. Unfortunately, that's where the problem is. How far should a policeman go? And this is something we need to debate about. These are not very simple things. They're very complicated. It's unfortunate. I don't want excessive force. If it was me, I wouldn't want to be subjected to that. But I should also listen when a policeman says, excuse me, don't do that. I would move away and give him the chance to show me. I mean, in some cases, some of them have been very unfair to some of us. And you've said, all right, let me give in. But that is because you want to have a little bit of peace. Let us not, and please, I'm tired of this thing about Dr. Aceng. In fact, I will stand for her. I disagree. If she made a mistake, she has said she's sorry, and she will make sure it is not repeated. Yeah, that is human nature. But if you continue, it has become a sing-song, you know. I've been hearing this, and it's very unfortunate. I even saw something on the social media. Somebody said she has now resigned, which was, of course, false. Also. Fake news. Yes.
Of course, they're now saying they will hold their rallies. Now, my question was, isn't this a recipe for disaster? Opposition holding rallies and police saying, no, you will not hold the rallies because the Minister of Health said we shall be doing A, B, C, D. What do you anticipate?
This country has got a government. And this country, the British have a way. Yeah, the government has got a long arm. The Americans say Uncle Sam is looking at you. In Uganda, let's say the Uganda government is looking at you. Don't attempt the government. Government has got the power, and they will keep security whether you like it or not. So if you want to go and use that as a stage management for you to get popularity so that you could be elected, fine. But remember that the government will keep security. This thing, you know, you saw this thing in Parliament. They wanted to steal the maze of the speaker. What came after that? They've never forgotten it. It has become a sing-song.
And of course, in 1986, January 29th, when President Museveni was being sworn in, he mentioned the 10-point plan for the NRM. Number 1 was democracy. Number 2, security. I'd like to focus on democracy. Do you believe the NRM government has done so much to restore democracy in the country, at least since the restoration of multi-party politics 15 years ago?
Oh, yes. They've done quite a bit. It has not become 100%. So has the American democracy, which started 300 years ago, is still not yet perfect. The British one, 800 years from the Magna Carta up to now, is never become perfect. So democracy is something that you build brick by brick. It has got a process. It doesn't happen in one day, and it's not theory that you sit there and say, let there be democracy and democracy will be there. No, the people must have integrity, the people must change, the people must be made to understand, and the people learn on the job. Unfortunately, there's no school for democracy. We all learn as we go along.
Many political
that's why I don't have the five-year thing should be stopped. This is part of learning that every 5 years we shall have elections. Yes.
Of course, some political experts contend that the state of democracy in Uganda has deteriorated, at least since 2005, since the restoration of multi-party politics. You saw a year later, after we introduced multi-party politics, the candidate, Besigye, was arrested and he was nominated in jail a year after restoring multi-party politics. And experts contend that we've gotten onto a downward slant ever since 2005 up to date. I mean, you have the NRM conducting elections where people are lining up behind each other. Is that an advancement in democracy?
Well, that depends on the way you look at it. We are a country of a certain economic level. We've got a certain amount of thinking. We want a certain system. We have put up a model that we probably cannot even afford. We have put it there and we would like to build it. And if it requires that for example, to elect the LC1, we will not have those votes. It's a village council. They can do that by lining up. I don't think...
Doesn't that take us back to the archaic days?
It doesn't. Which back? The problem with you people, you think you're
the
living in
secret ballot
America.
is the future.
No. You think you are living in America? We are not in America. We are in Uganda. Uganda is at a certain level in development. We are still building brick to brick. You are talking about a country. Some of you say the problems, we have a liberal group here that have been who are completely been brainwashed by the West, and they think the utopian democracy, which is being sold by the Western countries, is the one we must go with. If we want to achieve the same thing in a different way, we'll do it. And as long as we keep on plodding on and building our country, we will go towards the utopia. To me, it is something that we go towards. It's not something that you snap your finger and suddenly it is there.
And let's talk about suppression of political parties in Uganda, at least since the restoration of multi-party politics. Many political experts contend that the reason President Museveni restored multi-party politics, or was forced to restore it, was to actually get to know who the saboteurs were in the NRM. People who were working for the opposition while they were within the NRM. So in a way, the restoration of multi-party politics was to identify those who are not in alignment with the NRM ideology. And they contend that's why we are seeing the brutality being meted out on these opposition loyalists, because they know who they are now. It wasn't because they wanted to let political parties
the concept.
Yes.
But let me look at the other side. It is NRM that has brought back the multi-party.
Yes.
It is most of the NRM...
To identify the most.
Well, it's the conflict within NRM that has created the other parties. The conflict in NRM has made other parties being created. Conflict has got a management of conflict brings about this. If there is a conflict in NRM, and it started in parliament here, we young parliamentarians with something called PAFO, and then eventually you have FDC, and the older parties like DP, and then you have old parties like UPC, and now you have other organizations coming up. You must thank NRM for having established an atmosphere where new parties are formed. They have not refused them. They are actually there. They are not saboteurs. They are parties. A saboteur is somebody who is against the nation of the nation of the country, and you take them to court before they are confirmed that they are saboteurs. You cannot sit there and point and say, "Oh, Babu said he does not agree with President Museveni, therefore he's a saboteur." No, I don't agree with that. I think what is happening, and these arguments you people bring, I think some of them are so shallow that we need to look at them. Let's look at the people who don't agree with what is in NRM. All right? NRM has got a caucus where all of you, members of parliament, can go and debate an issue thoroughly. At the end of that issue, you debate, you vote. The majority of the people vote that they want that thing to be done. Now, as a member of that caucus, for you to leave the caucus and then go to appeal to the opposition in the constitution of the NRM is not allowed. So that is not a saboteur. That is somebody who does not agree with what has been done in a caucus. And this is where I disagree with a lot of people who makes this thing simple. And I've looked at other parties, people who don't agree with them, how they have also how they have dealt with them. Some of these parties have actually chased them away. Some of them have refused to register them. So
that's because they think they are moles from the NRM who are paid to come and create confusion within the opposition. That's their argument.
Those are the reasons they give you. Those are the reasons they give you.
And what are you saying?
Those are conflicts. Whenever you have a group of people and there is a conflict, and if you don't handle that conflict well, you're bound to have that situation. And then you have people who want to give reasons why they are having that conflict. And these are the reasons. Oh, they are moles, they are this. Why? Why do you think they are moles? Why is it that you have not managed the conflict? Whenever you have a conflict in an organization, you should try and manage it. Immediately you throw them out, the two things will happen. Either they will form another party. If not form another party, they'll start fighting you. So There are many ways of looking at it. So conflict management is one of our weaknesses. We must learn how to accommodate each other, you know, in this country. By the way, these are parties. The most important thing here is not the parties, it's the people of this country.
Indeed.
And the people of this country want you parties to find a win-win situation where you operate within the environment and the landscape comfortably.
But don't you think, Captain Babu, that the suppression of political parties demeans the purpose of the restoration of multi-party politics? I mean, you want political parties to do what they want, to do their will in a free political space, but then you see police jumping onto
they
these
do what they
strong-
want
Yes.
is not correct. There is what we call order. There is law and order in any country. You don't go around running places and inciting people, and you call that you do what you want. You do what you want within reason. There is time to campaign, and there is time to run this country. Now, what do you want to do? You want us to campaign for 5 years, and you do what you want, and you go and incite people? You make people run all over the place? We are having problems. This country has got serious problems, and you turn those serious problems into political problems? This country has serious problem and requires serious solutions. And when we are not in elections, and the election is declared, and they are given enough time to go and talk to the people, that's when I would like to agree with you that during that period, people should be given an opportunity to campaign. However, during the time when we're building this country, I think this country has got a right to say, you will not incite our people. You will not jump on our serious problems, our problems in this country when we are building it, and we want you to be able to do these things within a certain reason, and they have got methods they require. So I would like us to have a perception. These third world countries, where we are building what you've just called democracy,
Yes.
where we are building the economy of the country, where we're building the political maturity of the country, where we are educating our people, where we have the biggest industry called poverty, where we need to help our poor people, we cannot subject them to campaign for 5 years. The political parties must find methods, and they now have something called iPod. They should sit down and see how they can find a way to reach the people. For example, in most countries, they have what they call town meetings. They could say, allow us to have town meetings, which are not big, where we can sit down and talk about issues. And the people on the other said, yes, you can talk about issues, but please don't incite people. Don't go and use propaganda all the time. There's one thing, though, in this country, which everybody wants. Everybody says we should change the president. That is the biggest. In fact, when you hear people talking, they are not talking about everybody else. They are all looking at the president. President must go. It's been 35 years. Enough is enough. Now, this is where our problem is. And people have refused to talk about that issue. They use all sorts of excuses about all the other gains we have made and destroying those gains. Right? So, they want change of the president. How do we achieve it? In a situation like this, with all the problems we've had in this country, how do we sit down to find a solution to this? And even convince the man who is there that, listen, this is the problem. Tell the people, this is where the problem is. Because all the other areas, they have changed many, many times. It's only one post that seems to be used, even by politicians, to get votes. In Kampala here, the biggest, the biggest campaign, you just say President Museveni is so bad and you get the votes. Right? That has been the campaign of some of our people. President should go.
And you're saying it should change it should actually revert to the campaigning of ideas.
That's
Preach
right.
the ideas to the people.
Correct.
And let them decide.
Let the owners of this country, the voters, decide whether they want the president or not. Now, the bad habits. We need leaders of integrity. We need leaders who can marshal us. We need leaders who can convince us. We don't want leaders who all the time incite us.
But how will we test these new leaders if we've had the same crop of old leaders in power since 1986? How will we test the others?
I didn't know that you had segregation. What's wrong with old people? What's wrong with young people? What's wrong with women? What's wrong with short people or tall people? I think you people should stop being, should stop being sectarian. It doesn't matter whether old or young, we want a good leaders. As far as I'm concerned, I'm preaching good leaders. If a leader is good, he's got integrity, he can do the job. I've just seen a leader in America who just passed on, who has been there for 50 years in the House of Representatives. And he has done a good job. And the accolade this man got is unbelievable. So this sectarian tendency.
The problem...
And listen,
yes,
listen to
yes.
me. I am tired of this propaganda about old and young. Let us get good leaders. I
But,
don't care
yes.
whether young or old.
Yes.
And this is not a matter of looking for jobs. We are looking for people with talent. It doesn't matter
Captain
who they are.
Babu, the argument is, how will the young crop of leaders get the experience they need if these positions are not vacated by the old leaders?
In the political arena we have, are those the only position where old people are? In your sincere opinion, I want you to tell me, how is experience gained? And I think this is where the problem is. Experience is gained by people going through a process, right? Barack Obama started in local politics, started at the state politics, and eventually reached the national politics.
How best can this government actually help the young crop of leaders to actually hone their skills?
They're already helping.
How can they do
They're
it?
already helping them. This is the only government in the world that has got something for the youth, has got something for the women, has got something for PWD, has got something for the old people. Not only that, this is at all levels. When people are talking, they're only talking about parliament. They never talk about the local councils. They never talk about LC3. They never talk about LC5. They don't, even the city council here. We need leaders.
All right. Last but not least, as we wrap up, Captain Francis Babu, I would like to thank you for having made the time to come and speak with us right here in morning at NTV. It's been a great, great conversation. But you need to know that the opposition is not also sitting. They're not folding their arms. They're galvanizing forces, coalitions, and so forth. Do you think they have what it takes to take on President Museveni as the way things are standing?
You said they are not sitting. If they were sitting, I would be laughing at them.
The way they are galvanizing, do you think they have what it takes to take on President Museveni come
I agree.
2021?
They can do where they can use all sorts of methods. They can convince people. I have no problem with that. They should actually be allowed, as time comes by, to go and do different types of campaign, which they have provided. They should be allowed, but they should not use President Museveni as a scarecrow for them to get votes.
Captain Francis Babu, many thanks for having made the time to speak to Morning at NTV. My name is Romeo Busiku and would like to wish a great birthday to all the kings and queens, boys and girls who are celebrating their birthdays on this particular Monday, the 20th of July. Have yourselves a blessed day. I'll be back here at around 10:30, 11 a.m. for another conversation on how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted negatively the people living with disabilities.